It's Thursday morning. You're behind the wheel. Running errands, maybe. Heading to work, lost in the rhythm of highway traffic. The radio hums beneath your thoughts. A familiar backdrop of news segments and weather updates you're barely processing. Then, everything fractures. Every phone, every screen, and every vehicle screams. A digital wail, an emergency broadcast cutting through the static like a knife through silk. Ballistic missile threat detected. Take shelter immediately. This is not a drill. Your brain resists it. Half of you thinks glitch, malfunction, some alert system gone haywire. A technical error that will be corrected in seconds. A heartbeat later, the SUV in the next lane jerks violently. The woman driving is sobbing into her steering wheel, her shoulders shaking. The radio dissolves into a panicked voice, words tumbling over each other. Multiple launches confirmed, trajectory locked. Impact zones calculated, all civilians advised to. It cuts to silence. Dead air. Nothing but the hum of your engine and the thunder of your pulse. You check your phone. The emergency alert took just under 4 minutes from Northcom's detection to reach your pocket. If this is an intercontinental ballistic missile, you have roughly 30 minutes before impact. If it's a submarine launch from offshore waters, maybe 12 minutes, possibly less. If you're anywhere near a naval yard or air base, that window collapses to single digits. You probably already understand. Metropolitan centers are primary targets, but so are logistics hubs and critical infrastructure. Your commute cuts past a railway junction, a power substation, a landmark you never paid attention to before, but now looms in your mind like a bullseye. Around you, order disintegrates in real time. Some drivers slam the accelerator, tires screaming against asphalt. Others freeze completely, hands locked on steering wheels, eyes glazed with disbelief. Within seconds, the highway transforms into something unrecognizable. Traffic regulations evaporate. Every shoulder becomes an escape route. Every median strip becomes a pathway. People abandon vehicles mid-lane, sprinting toward any structure with walls, any building that might offer protection. A Rivian's dashboard flickers once and dies. Just a black void where navigation and speed readings used to glow. You think about high-altitude electromagnetic pulse. A single detonation 20 miles up could disable electronics across an entire region, frying circuits in microseconds. You find yourself scanning upward, glancing between clouds and asphalt, searching for something you wouldn't even recognize if you saw it. The pulse is invisible. But what about the flash? The blinding light that comes before the shockwave? Think back to that incident in Honolulu. During that false alert, civilians hid in drainage systems, left engines running on expressways, sheltered beneath highway supports, wedged themselves into utility tunnels and basement stairwells. Parents shielded children with their own bodies. Strangers held hands in the dark. You can feel the calculations clawing at the edge of your terror. Steel-reinforced concrete blocks 90% of gamma radiation. Car metal, nearly useless, offering protection only against wind and debris. Older vehicles might continue operating after an electromagnetic pulse. Anything manufactured after 1982 risks total failure the instant a pulse detonates overhead. The information rushes in, fragments of civil defense pamphlets you once skimmed, YouTube videos you watched half distracted, preparation guides you never thought you'd actually need. You're half a mile from the next bridge, but lanes are paralyzed, a solid mass of metal and rubber in desperation. You're on the outskirts of a major city, roughly 12 miles out. Prime zone for thermal effects and blast radius if a surface detonation occurs. From your position, electrical grids and transmission towers are strategic priorities, targets selected by algorithms years ago. You notice the blinking crimson lights of a communications mast in the distance. Anxiety coils in your chest like a living thing. Maybe your fuel gauge is flashing empty, or you're riding on fumes and the realization hits that if you stall now, you're immobilized, stranded in the worst possible place at the worst possible time. You have seconds to decide. Sprint for shelter, stay put and hope, follow the stampede, or break away alone. And for a fraction of time, everything suspends like a breath held too long, like the moment before a wave crashes. Section 2. The exit disappears. Traffic has morphed into arteries of terror, pulsing with panic instead of purpose. The eastbound emergency lane is already cluttered with stopped vehicles, warning lights pulsing in chaotic rhythm, some engines running, some doors flung wide, belongings scattered across pavement. The drivers are gripping phones with white knuckles, some weeping openly, some screaming over the roar of idling motors and the monotonous drone of alerts that offer no new information, just the same terrifying message on loop. Only launches verified. Take cover now. This is not a drill. There's no strategy left here, just instinct and adrenaline. You dig through your center console with trembling hands, find a paper atlas from years ago. But the navigation system is glitching, pixelated fragments dancing across the screen before it goes dark completely. The thought circles endlessly in your mind like a mantra of doom. Can you actually outpace this? Can anyone? Intercontinental missiles travel at over 15,000 miles per hour in their terminal phase, dropping from the edge of space like meteors programmed for specific coordinates. Even a sea-launched weapon gives you perhaps 12 minutes maximum from detection to impact. The fastest you could manage, weaving through this chaos with perfect roads and no obstacles, is 60 miles an hour if you're extraordinarily lucky. But there are no perfect roads. There are only bottlenecks and abandoned cars and people running across lanes. You're not gaining distance, you're barely moving. The briefings warned you, the emergency management videos you sat through at work, half listening. Mass evacuation is a fantasy. Highways will choke just like they did during the California wildfires, during Hurricane Rita, during every disaster where millions tried to flee at once. And those people had hours, sometimes days of warning. You have minutes. You recall the targeting protocols from articles you read years ago, declassified documents from the Cold War. Military installations first, then population centers, then infrastructure nodes. Everything follows a strategic doctrine older than your parents. War plans drafted in concrete bunkers by strategists who calculated acceptable losses in millions. Counterforce strikes first, destroying the ability to retaliate. Then economic targets if escalation continues beyond the first exchange. Some of those warheads are programmed for nothing but freight yards, relay stations, electrical hubs, the invisible skeleton that keeps civilization functioning. A couple in a Wrangler cuts violently across the grass median, suspension bouncing wildly. The man is yelling at children in the back seat to get down, to stay down, voice raw with terror. The vehicle sputters, coughs, engine dies completely. Dashboard lights extinguished in an instant. Classic electromagnetic pulse casualty. Every integrated circuit fried simultaneously. Vintage pickups idling near the shoulder keep running. Engines rough but functional. The pulse ignored their analog guts, their simple mechanical hearts. Crowds abandon belongings without hesitation. Designer bags and laptops left in the dirt, stumbling across stretches of pavement toward anything solid. A department store with thick walls. A drainage pipe half buried in an embankment. Even roadside culverts that might offer some protection, any protection at all. You watch someone pry open a utility access cover with bare hands, nails breaking, and start lowering a child down a metal ladder into darkness. It's less panic, more gravity, an inexorable pull toward any shelter, any chance. Pressure mounting with each passing second. Bodies jamming at exits and doorways. If you had clarity, if your mind wasn't shorting out with fear, you'd want a bridge foundation, a parking structure underground, the heaviest barrier available between you and the sky. But you're trapped and possibilities vanish by the heartbeat, options narrowing to a single point of desperation. The radio sputters back to life with a burst of static. Electromagnetic effects confirmed across multiple regions. Mobile networks failing. Shortwave radio, battery operated. Most dependable for official communications. Stay tuned for updates. You glance down and your phone screen goes dark. Refuses to wake no matter how many times you press the button. Beside you, a man hauls a cooler packed with bottled water from his back seat. Practical even now, preparing for what comes after if there is an after. Groups are shouting about forcing open a maintenance tunnel if they can break the lock. Voices overlapping in desperate coordination. You scan for escape routes one more time, but everything is wrapped in aluminum and tempered glass, all false protection that will vaporize or melt in the first millisecond of thermal pulse. Catch your breath. Force your lungs to work. If you had 12 minutes, what would you choose? Run toward distant cover and risk being caught in the open? Crouch beneath the nearest overpass and pray the structure holds? Or seal yourself in your vehicle and pray the detonation is miles away, far enough that you're outside the radius of instant death? Share your instinct in the comments below. Someone else might see it during their own moment of terror, their own impossible choice. You're surrounded by blaring horns that serve no purpose now, the rising pitch of mass hysteria, voices calling out names of loved ones, the certainty that every ordinary moment, every boring commute, every mundane Thursday morning is your final calm second before everything changes forever. The sky hasn't darkened. Clouds still drift in the same patterns, but now every tick of every clock is a countdown you can feel in your bones. How many minutes until the light? Until the shockwave that flattens buildings? Until the dust and debris and radioactive particles that will poison the air for days? And time refuses to pause for anyone, refuses to grant mercy or second chances. Section 3. Exits closing, choices narrowing with mathematical precision. 7 minutes remaining if the estimates are accurate, if the trajectory calculations are correct, if this is really happening, and not some nightmare you'll wake from. You leave your vehicle behind without looking back, door hanging open, keys still in the ignition. The highway behind you is now a graveyard of metal and shattered glass, a monument to the moment civilization's veneer cracked. Doors ajar at odd angles, headlights aimed at nothing, aimed at sky and dirt and the backs of other cars. The commercial district just off the highway hides dozens of structures, office buildings and warehouses and shopping centers, but you understand the math now with terrible clarity. Only reinforced concrete truly protects against radiation and blast effects. Most modern buildings are framed in wood and plaster, efficient and economical and utterly inadequate for this. You run, chest burning, legs pumping toward a highway overpass where a group has already gathered in the shadow of concrete pillars. Some lie flat against the supports, bodies pressed to rough cement, avoiding direct sight lines to the downtown skyline where the flash will come from if it comes. The old emergency preparedness guidelines resurface from some buried corner of memory. Avoid facing glass that will become a million flying daggers. Create multiple physical barriers between yourself and the detonation point. Trade anything you own for thermal layers, even an extra jacket that might protect skin from burns. Communications are effectively dead now. Cellular infrastructure overloaded and failing, towers going dark one by one. No further alerts coming through. Shortwave radio is mostly interference, squeals and pops, except for a faint loop that keeps repeating in a calm voice that sounds almost obscene in its normalcy. Do not attempt to leave the area. Find the deepest available shelter. Await further instructions. Someone gestures at formations in the sky that don't look like weather patterns. Contrails too straight and purposeful. Vapor trails, someone claims with false confidence, or military aircraft scrambling, possibly both. Observers from safer zones watching and waiting. Nobody smiles. Nobody makes jokes. The air carries the scent of diesel fuel and weathered asphalt and something else. Something electric and wrong that might just be your imagination. Your skin feels flushed, whether from adrenaline flooding your system or the mental image of coming fire, of heat that will peel paint from cars and skin from bone. Every texture seems to vibrate with frozen dread. Concrete rough under your palms, dirt gritty between your fingers. An infant is screaming somewhere in the crowd, and no one moves to soothe her because what comfort is there to give? Guardians are bent forward, shoulders hunched, watching seconds drain away on wristwatches and phone screens that still work, staring at numbers that count down to nothing or everything. You remember that Honolulu incident again? The false alarm that traumatized an entire state. Civilians in resort stairwells clinging together, silent except for muffled crying, paralyzed by numbers on screens counting down to annihilation that never came. Children asking questions parents couldn't answer. But this time, there's no retraction message. No automated voice announcing system malfunction to restore false calm. No embarrassed officials apologizing for the error. Just silence and waiting. You cycle through the protocols mentally one more time, a desperate student cramming before an exam. Vehicles offer minimal radiation shielding, just enough to deflect wind and small debris. Concrete and masonry are 10 times more effective than open exposure, and underground is best of all. Most radioactive particles settle 15 to 30 minutes post-detonation, carried by wind patterns and gravity. The initial 48 hours are the most lethal, when radiation levels are highest. But even a single barrier, even a few feet of earth or concrete, might determine survival versus a slower death from radiation sickness. Everyone's breathing has gone shallow now, bodies preparing for trauma, imagining that first unnatural brightness that will be brighter than the sun, brighter than anything human eyes have evolved to process. Someone begins counting backward from 4 minutes in a whisper. A delivery driver nearby whispers instructions like a prayer, words you've heard before in civil defense videos. If it comes, shut your eyes tight. Don't look at the flash. Lie prone with feet toward the blast. Protect ears from the pressure wave. Keep mouth slightly open to equalize pressure and prevent your lungs from rupturing. Some have already made final phone calls on dying batteries. Last words to people who might not survive either. Voices breaking as they say, "I love you, I'm sorry, I wish." Others grip loved ones or strangers. Human contact in the face of inhuman weapons. Nobody's truly prepared for the world to end. No amount of preparation really prepares you. You press your forehead to the pavement, close your eyes, and wait for the impossible dawn or the prolonged silence.